In this video, let's try to create React project on AppScript environment. We're gonna need CLASP, we're gonna need Parcel. Now you wanna make sure you have updated version of NodeJS and you have updated version of VSCode because I'll be using some newer features to make our lives easier. So if you don't have the latest one, just go ahead to Node.js and download and install the newer version. And same applies to VSCode. So first of all, let me just create a folder on my machine and drag it over to VSCode. So here's a new folder. It's called Web App React. Right now it's empty. As you can see, I'm just gonna drag it over here. That should open that folder in VSCode. When you create your folder, make sure you don't have any spaces in your folder names. You should be able to use dashes. So here I'm going to open the terminal. So the current version of Node I got here is this. For those of you who don't know how to install VS Code and Node, I'll leave links in the description for those videos that will show you how to do that. I will also leave my regular CLASP video in the description because I'm going to be using a lot of that here as well. So as you can see, the current version I got v16 for Node. If you have v15, v14 or something, you want to make sure you update it. So I'm going to get started by creating a project here. So we'll go npm init. I'll do -y so I don't have to answer any questions. That should create this package.json. If I open that, that's pretty much what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and remove this main.js index thing because we're not going to have that. So I'll save this. Now here we're going to install CLASP. And for that, if I head over to their GitHub page right here, I scroll down, hopefully we'll have the command here. See, there it is. I'm going to copy that, but I'm not going to paste the exact same thing because this is a global installation. And I want to have a local installation for this so that in case you have other versions and so on, it doesn't clash. So therefore here, instead of doing this -g, we're going to replace it with d to basically install this as a dev dependency for this project. So other than that, the rest is going to be the same. I'm going to hit enter. This may take a little bit of time. So as you can see, because of that /d, now it shows up under dev dependencies here. That's the version of CLASP I just installed. You can see it right here. Now, if you don't already have AppScript API enabled, you want to go ahead and click on this link. I'm going to leave this link to the whole GitHub page and the Parcel link in the description as well. So if you click on this link right here, if you open it, it's going to take you to your AppScript API settings. And if this is off, you want to switch it to on. For me, it's already on, so I can just move on. So next, we need to set up some of these CLASP commands. The first one is to log in. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this CLASP login. See, that's going to be this. So I'm going to set this command up as commands in my Node project because I have CLASP installed as a local dependency. Instead of running that here like this, we're going to just create commands here in the scripts section. So I'll just go ahead and paste it here. And this command, I'm going to call it glogin, like Google login. I'm going to copy paste this and add a comma here. And then I'm going to create glogout in case we want to log out of Google account. And I believe the command is CLASP logout. I'm going to add a few more commands here that I'm going to need here from CLASP. So I'll just go ahead and do a few more lines here, like so, and go to CLASP docs. So that was login here. So we have this create to create a new project. I think I'm going to use that. So that would be this CLASP create. And we're going to probably use a few of these options here. See the type of project, the title, the router. I'm probably not going to do the type of project, but I will do title and root directory. So I'll go ahead and copy this much for now. And for this, we'll just call it gcreate, I guess. So I'm just going to prefix all this Google stuff with G. And let's go see what are those parameters here. So we have title and we have router. Let me just go ahead and place those here. So title is going to be what you want to name this script project. So I'll just enter that title in single quotes like this. So I'll just call it React Test Project. And then for my root directory, that will be the directory here that we want to use for our app script stuff. So I'll go ahead and create a new folder here. And I'm going to call it apps script. You can call it whatever you want to call it. And then because that's going to be my directory, that's what I'm going to mention here. So I'm going to say in my current directory, there should be a directory called apps script. So that's my create command. Obviously, if you want to name it something else, you will change this name. So scrolling down, see it gives us an example here of that command. We're not going to be using this parent ID. We'll just do pretty much a standalone sort of project. This can also be like sheets, docs, etc. if you want to do that. So there's this clone if you want to clone existing project. And if you're going to do that, then you want to do it this way. Maybe we'll set it up as a command too. So I'll just copy this, go to this, and we'll just call this gclone. Now here, there's this double quotes again. I'm actually going to remove them around this script ID right here. So this would be the actual ID of your script if you want to clone an existing project. And our root directory will pretty much be the same. So that will be this. I'm probably not going to be using clone, but instead of create, you could as well just use clone if you want to. Again, you can watch CLASP videos to figure out how that works. And then finally, we have our pull, and we're going to have our push. So let's go ahead and set those up. And we're going to need another one like this, which is going to be basically push. And then finally, we're going to set up a watch command so that if there are changes in this app script folder, it automatically will push those to the server. So for that, let's go and find watch here. See, this is this watch flag. Here's an example. And this I'm just going to call gstart because once we set everything up, this is what we'll be using pretty much to constantly just push our changes as we work on this project. So I'll save this. Now, any one of these commands we can run by going to our terminal and do npm run and follow that by these commands like glogin, glogout, gcreate. So if I do glogin, it will essentially just do this CLASP login. So if I do npm run glogin, if I'd enter, see that opens this for me to actually log in and authenticate this whole thing. It's going to ask for permission for all this stuff. Are you sure you want to do this? Logged in. So we're done. Every time you set up a class project, you need to log in. So you may need to re-log in at some point. So if you're trying to push your files and you're getting some sort of error, could be because your login session is no longer valid. Just go ahead and run the same command and you should be able to log in again. Now, all of these commands we could just run, like I said, by doing npm run and type the commands. But another thing we can do if you have recent version of VS Code, there is this part that says npm scripts. And if I open this, everything I do here is going to show up here as well. See this login, logout, all of these things. And for each one of them, if I wanted to run that, I could run it by simply just going over this one and clicking on this run button on the right without having to type in the terminal. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. So that's going to be this gcreate after I log in. So again, I'm just going to go on this one and click run. And that's going to ask me, see, what type of project do you want to create? So here you can basically say what type of project you want to create by doing up and down arrow keys. See, we have like a web app, forms, slides, sheets, whatever. On this one, I'm just going to go with standalone. And see, that's the name that I chose here. And as soon as it's created, it's going to give you a link to that actual script project right here. So if I do Control or Command click on this, see, React test project, that's what it's named here. There's nothing in this project. As you can see, it's empty. Now, if you decide to do anything on this website of this, you have to always remember to pull those changes. So if you're trying to find where this is, you can simply just navigate to script.google.com. It's going to list every project you've ever created, and you'll be able to find the project with the name you chose. And that's how you can get back to this if you wanted to, or you can simply just save this link. For now, I'm just going to leave it at this and close this. So I'm going to hit enter here someplace so it goes away. So as you can see, again, you can run it by doing npm run, write the command here, or click on one of these run buttons. If you don't have this section, just do the npm run. So now that I've created the project, you'll see that now we get our AppScript.json file here, which is really the hidden file that's in this project. So I should be able to add more things, but we need to install one more thing, and that would be autocomplete for our server-side AppScript functions. So to add autocomplete, we'll go back to our CLASP documentation, scroll up here someplace, and find this docs section. Here, if I scroll down, see we have TypeScript. And here, if I scroll down, I'll have this second install command that will basically help us get autocomplete. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that command, go back to VS Code, paste it here, except that again, I want to have this as a dev dependency, which means I'm going to do D again here. The rest should be fine. You can do I or install. It's the same thing. So I'll go ahead and run this. And that should take care of our dev dependencies for AppScript. So as far as our AppScript and CLASP setup, we should be pretty much done. So it would be probably wise for us to just get us started by creating a new doGet function for our AppScript to work, and also deploying our first version so we have our head deployment. So I'll just go ahead and go inside of this and create a new file. You can call this whatever you want. I'm just going to call this main.js. And in this one, I'm going to create a function, doGet, which is a function we're going to need in all our web apps. And it should return HTML service. So I'm going to do return HTML service and see autocomplete now works. So I'm going to do this create template from file. We'll use index file, which currently doesn't exist yet. We're going to do .evaluate. And then we'll add some meta tags. I'll show you what those meta tags would be. For now, just to make this easy, let's just move these to a new line, like so. And then I'm going to create that HTML file for now. So I'll go here, add a new file. All of this should go within this AppScript folder. I'm going to call it index.html. You can call it something else. I'm going to do exclamation tab to just create this main starting point. For now, I'll just create an H1 here and I'll just say hello. And if you remember when I did this main JS, I have this meta tags right here. So AppScript doesn't really support this meta tags in our head section. So we need to add them using this add meta tag method. And that's going to basically accept the name of the meta tag, which will be this one, viewport. And then the value of that meta tag or content, whatever you want to call it, as a second parameter, which is going to be basically this. So save that. Now I can go back here and get rid of this meta tags that are here. Save all of this. And at this point, I'm going to just push this to the server and I'll just do this G push. So again, you can either run from here or you can type the command in your terminal. CLASP JSON project file. You may need to create the file. What happened here is this file that I have, see, it went to this AppScript folder right there. So this clasp.json. So I need to move that over here to our main folder. So there we are. That's our class.json. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on this and try this again. So let's try to push it again now that this file is in the accurate folder. So as you can see, it says push 3 files. So at this point, if I go and open that in that web interface, I'm going to hit enter here to get out of this, which again, you can find by going to script.google.com. So if you go there, see, I search project name, I can see this is that project, React test project. I can open this and you'll see that everything I did over there is now here. So for me, I just want to do my first deployment here, my head deployment. So I'll go under deploy, new deployment, go here, do a web app, and call this whatever you want to call it. Set your settings, however this is supposed to run, and hit deploy. Again, if you want everybody to be able to access this, you would change this to anyone. Right now, I'm just going to do only myself. But if you're making a public thing, that would be anyone. So once I hit deploy, it's going to give me the URL. I don't care about this URL right now. I just want the dev URL. So if I go and open this and do test deployments, I'll have my dev URL right here. So if I click on that, that should open that hello thing. So at this point, I did everything I wanted to do here. I just wanted to deploy this. So like I said, anything you do here, if you do deployment or you come here and do some sort of maybe permission setup or whatever else you do here in the screen, make sure you always pull after this, because otherwise if you go to your local environment and start making changes, now you have a conflict between the version you got here and the version you got in your VS Code. So that's why after I do this and I have this set up, I'll go back to VS Code and make sure I do the pull, so gpull command right here. And that's going to update all of this. And mainly this is where the updates are going to be. See, now there's this web app section here and all of this. So that's it. So we're done with our CLASP. Now we can get to setting up React here somehow. And for that, we're going to need first to make sure we have Parcel installed. Again, we're going to install Parcel locally in this project. So I'm going to go to now Parcel, website, get started. I'll go to this web app section, get started. And this is their install command. And lucky for me, it's already saying save dev. So it's going to do as a development dependency. So I don't have to change this one. So I'll go here, paste that command as is for this one and run. And again, this may take some time. Now that this is installed, if I go to my package.json, let me actually delete all the stuff that I have open already so it's cleaner. You'll see that if I go to my dev dependencies, now I have Parcel installed as well. And that's the version I got. So now that we have Parcel installed, let's go ahead and create a folder here on our main level. And I'm going to call this src, which will be basically our React source files. And in this src folder, I'm going to create a file, again called index.html. Now, this doesn't have to be index.html, but basically it has to match the same name I did here. This name has to be the same as this name. Index usually is a good name, especially with React when you're working with a single page application. There it is, index. That's our starting point. So I'll go ahead and basically just set up our main first boilerplate. Again, I'll get rid of some of these from here. And we go to our body section. And in our body section, we basically gonna have some sort of div with an ID. I'm gonna call it ID app. That's where we're gonna mount our React app. And then we're gonna basically link to our script. And for that, let's create that file here in the source folder. Again, all this is gonna be our React project. I'm gonna do our index.js. This is gonna be our main index file for our React. Now we need to link from this HTML to this index file. Now, usually you would basically just do something like script source and basically just say in my current folder, point to this, right? Now, the reason I don't want to do this is because when you work with AppScript, we need a single file that's going to contain all the HTML and all the JavaScript together and CSS in the single file. Now, if I do it this way, it's going to create a separate HTML and separate JavaScript file. So therefore, what I'll do, let me actually go to Parcel documentation. And here in Parcel documentation, well, we're going to copy paste a few things to make our lives easier. So for that, what I'll do, I'll first go to this React section on the left. So this shows us how our initial setup should be, except I didn't do this, but I'm not going to do it this way anyways. So in our index.js, it gives us our main starting point for React, which this should be fine. So I'll just copy paste in my index.js file. I'll remove all these semicolons because I'm not going to be using them. I'm going to do default exports. I'm just going to remove this brackets around this. And I'm going to create this app component here inside of the source folder. App.js. And see, this is the example they have of app.js. Now, I'm not going to export this way, even though you could if you wanted to. It's a little confusing that they didn't import React itself in here. Maybe in the newer version, you don't need to import React anymore for this JSX. Maybe it figures it out for you. We'll find out. I'm just going to keep it like this. I am going to export this, not the way they did export it, but as a default export. Again, if you want to learn about this exports, React, all of this, I have a whole series about this for you to understand how exactly one export is different from the other. So good, I have this. We may, again, need to import React here. We'll find out in a second. I'm going to leave it like this. And here we're going to have this, which is our index file. So the final thing I'm going to need from our Parcel documentation is, if I scroll down to this HTML section, I'm going to scroll down here until this section of, see, inline scripts and styles. And you can see here how they have this example of inlining CSS or Sass in this case, and inlining your script. So I'm just going to copy that, go to our HTML file and paste it here. And I'm not going to console log anything. We're just going to import the whole thing. So we'll just do import. And here we'll just point to that index JavaScript file. So in our current folder, we have index.js. And this way, when we get our export, it should basically have all the script within our HTML file. And that same thing we can do with our CSS. So finally, let's add a command to our package.json to run this. So I'm going to go to package.json. Here, we're going to add another command, and I'll just call it start. And that's going to be basically our parcel command to start our React project, or compile, whatever you want to call this. So in a current directory, there's going to be an src directory. And then we're going to point to that index.html. I don't even think this current directory src is necessary, but let's just go and check maybe their docs. And while we're doing that, we need to also specify what the output folder is going to be when we have our compiled project, which we want to put in this app script directory to override this index.html file. So I'm going to go back and take a look. I'm going to have to come back to this. I'm going to keep this open. I'm just going to right click someplace here and open a new tab here. And I'll scroll up to this CLI section right here. And see, it says src/index. So it seems like we don't have to do that // like I thought. We are going to do a build script as well. But for now, we want to do our regular script. And if I keep scrolling down, see, we have this destination directory thing right here. And that's what we need to specify here. So I'm going to copy this, go back, and we're going to add that destination directory. And we're going to point to this app script folder. In my current folder, I got my app script folder. So this I'm going to do like they did in their project, like this. So src would be the source folder, and then we point to our main entry point to be this index.html. So that's going to be our parcel command to start this. Let's finally add one more command to basically build the final version. So I'll call this one build. And for that, let's go to parcel. Go up here, see it's going to be parcel build, and it's going to be this. So I'm going to copy that, go back here and do parcel build. And it's going to be the same. We're still going to do destination directory, the same spot. So this we can use when we want basically optimized version of this entire thing. So it's going to minimize it and do whatever else it has to do. But generally, we should be fine with the start for the most part when we just develop. So now at this point, I want to start this React project to see if this works. So I'm going to do this start command right here. I'll do npm start. Again, for start, you don't have to do run for some reason. For the rest of them, you have to do run. So it says failed. See here, unexpected token, it gave me an error right here. So that tells me it didn't recognize that this is React. There's a couple of reasons for that. We didn't import React, but they didn't specify to import it in their docs. But we definitely didn't install React, so that's a problem. So I'm going to get out of this and make sure we install React. So we're going to do npm install React. And we also need to install React DOM. So I'll just install them both in the same line like this. Now this one is not going to be a dev dependency. So we'll just install it like this. This would be DOM. I'm going to hit enter to run those. Now they should go to our, again, dependencies. If I look here, see under dependencies, we have React, React DOM, and here we have our dev dependencies. All right, so now let's go back and try to run that same npm start. And apparently without actually importing React, it was able to compile that project. So apparently they made some changes in Parcel, which is kind of extra magic, which I'm not a big fan of usually. I'm sure if we do import React here, it's not going to complain about it. That being said, for JSX, you no longer have to import React. In my app.js, see, it just says hello world. Let's just change this to, let's actually remove the semicolon. Let's just change this to first React app. Save it. If all of this worked, what it should do, it should basically generate a new index file compiled from this every time I'm making changes. And it should basically place it in this app script folder and overwrite this index file. So if I look at this index file, see, it's no longer that index file we used to have here when we started. It now has this compiled thing that we created in our React project right here. So we're not going to be touching it here, basically, but this is now that index file from React, which means if I keep this server running over here and just do another script here separate from this, so I'm going to create a split terminal here by clicking on this icon. And I'll click on this right side terminal because we need one script running to generate this React stuff, which is Parcel. And we need the second script running, which is going to be our server updates. So we basically send all this updated stuff to Google all the time. So that's going to be this gstart command, which is basically pushing our changes. There it is. So now this should be pushing our changes to our server on Google, which is going to be now using that new index file that was created. So if I go back now and take a look at this, if I reload, see it says first React app. So that means now I should be able to, having both of these things running, this and this over here, I should be able to just go here and work on this as my React application. So I can go here and do some sort of, say, div, and maybe move this inside of that div. And let's add some sort of paragraph. And if I save this, what's going to happen is going to update this. And that's going to also update this. It's going to push all our files to our server. So hopefully now, if I go back and reload this, we should be able to see we got this and we got that. So now we have our React basically compiled, sent to Google server. Now, once you're done and you're happy with what you've built, you can then do this build command. After you stop all of this, you can do that build command and then push that new index file, which is going to overwrite this index file, to the server, which will be more optimized file. During development, we don't want to run that whole build command probably every time. It's going to take longer. That being said, we have our React app. Let's try to add some CSS to this. So I'm going to go to my source folder and create some sort of Sass file here. We might want to keep this organized and have a folder for this. It would probably be a good idea. Let's actually add a folder instead. I'm going to call this styles maybe. And in this, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it main.scss. If you're not familiar with Sass, you can just write your regular CSS here. It's just going to work fine. But in addition, you can also use Sass here, which is extra benefit. So let's just keep this simple. Let's just take our H1s and style them in a different color. Set up some font size. Now we need to make sure we actually use this file. So what I'm going to do, again, I want all these styles to be all going inside of that same HTML file, if you remember, because we're in this AppScript weird environment. So what I'll do, I'll go to that index.html right here, and I'm going to add it here as an import. And if you remember, if I go to Parcel documentation here, there was an example of doing that right here. So I'm going to copy this. This puts it in the body section. I'm probably going to put it in the head section. I don't think that's going to matter. and we want to import. So in our current folder, now I have styles folder. In that styles folder, there should be a slash here. In my current folder, there's styles. And in that styles folder, we have this main SCSS file. So it looks like for this one, I have to do a semicolon on this because it's a style. So we'll just save this. So now we're linking to this main SCSS. Let's save this. So this is the first time it's doing that Sass stuff. So it had to probably go install some dependencies again for Sass. And we can figure that out if you go to package.json. We scroll down. See, it just installed this for us, transformer Sass. And that's one of the magical things about Parcel, that it handles all of that for you. But at this point, since I saved it, if I go back and just refresh this, see, this is now green because we're applying those styles there too. So now we have Sass in this environment. We can add styles to this. We have our React working with our project and all of this, just like that. And next time when you come back to run this project, once you do Control-C to exit out of these both things, you want to make sure that first we'll run our React project, and then we'll run our gstart to do this push watch, so it updates this whole thing on a server. And the reason I like this separation of pushing the files to the server and having this is that technically, if I'm not doing anything specific that needs Google script environment, I should be able to just start my regular Parcel project here and just click on this localhost and basically just work on this to just make it look nice. So that way I don't have to go here and refresh all the time to see the changes. So if I want to update some things here at this time, maybe I want to add another paragraph down here. And then I want to add some styles for those paragraphs. Whatever those styles may be, I could save this, go back. There it is. So now we don't have to basically reload our script on here all the time. And by the way, even if I reload this, still not going to work because I'm not pushing those changes at this point. So if we have something simple here, we can work on this locally. And once we basically create our main structure, then we can start working on our script. Let's finally see if we can also set up routes on this, which would be awesome if it works. So for that, let's go to React Router documentation. So currently V6 is the version. So I'm going to go read the docs. Here we're going to do installation, npm, and there is the line to install the version 6. Now, probably if you're watching this later, this is probably not going to have this @6 anymore. It's going to be whatever version it is. So I'll just copy this, go back here, and again, I'm going to install this in the terminal. So now we should have that in our package.json too. See, right there. So hopefully now we should be able to use it. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit, grab an example they got here. So see, there's this browser router around this app, and then we render that here. So that's pretty much what we need. So I'm going to copy this much, go back here. Again, I have videos about React Router separately. Watch those for more detail. I'm not going to talk too much about it. So I'll go here and basically just wrap this app in this. Maybe just send this all to one line. Then let's just do that import really quickly. After that, let's try to use some routes in our file, in our app file. So I'll just go here, scroll down, grab this import, and basically just add it here. I'm going to remove the link out of here because I'm not going to use it here. And then let's just go and grab the routes themselves. And we'll basically just paste it over here. We'll just convert this to a fragment like this. So now we have this home, we have this about, which currently don't exist. Let's go ahead and create those. So I'll go here, and in the source folder, we'll add another folder. We'll call it components. And here we'll create home.js, which will basically be our home page like this. And we'll make another one for our about. So I'll just copy this. So now I have these two. I'm going to close these, and we'll go here and we'll import those. And then finally, let's create some sort of navigation so we can see if we can navigate between this, because there's not going to be links on top of this because we're in an iframe. Again, I'm going to create another file here. Let's copy it from one of these. And here we're going to have some links. And for that, we'll go to our docs and grab an example of a link. That looks pretty good. One of them, I think, links to our homepage, and the other to about. If I'm not mistaken, that's the routes I had defined. Here, see homepage and about. So I need this link import. Which I just did. So finally, let's just put this nav in our file here and see if this whole thing works. And if it works, we're pretty much done. So nav, and finally, we're going to put that navigation above here. Save this. So finally, now I'll run my React project here. And then I'll just start my gstart, which is pushing this to Google server. Apparently I didn't type that right. I forgot run. All right, so files pushed. Seemingly, let's go take a look. So now we'll go to this Google's endpoint and reload. We got home, we got about. If I click on about, that's about page. If I click on home, it goes home page. I guess the only thing that didn't work here is that when I reload this in the beginning, it doesn't know we are on the home page by default. That problem shouldn't exist if we're in our local environment. Right here, see if I refresh this, it knows this is the home page, this is about page. Now, there might be a more clever way to handle this, but one way to just handle this really quickly is to basically just say, if it's not any of this for all the other paths, let's just render the home page. Save that, and we'll see how that works. So we'll go back and try to reload this. And there it is. Then I can go and now navigate here. And now we have a working router. Only we're really in AppScript environment. And now we can work on our React project. Once we're happy with all of this, then we can basically just Control C from this. And we want to do two things. We want to build the final code, which is going to be this build code down here, so I can run it from here. So now this is going to be more optimized version for our index file. And then we'll just push this. We'll do gpush to push this to the server, that optimized version. And anything that's backend, you would basically just work directly here. So you can just create your JavaScript backend files and do whatever you do here. Anything that's front end, which is going to be React, you'll work here. So at this point, that should still render the same way if we refresh after that build. See, with our more optimized code. And then you can go to the actual project itself to script.google.com and deploy the version. And there it is. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.